Imagine a world where everything you believed was a lie, not just a simple misunderstanding, but a meticulously crafted illusion designed to keep you from the truth of who you are and the nature of the universe itself. What if the very foundations of your faith, the bedrock of your understanding of good and evil, were built upon a cosmic deception? This isn't just a philosophical exercise. It's the chilling premise hidden within one of humanity's oldest and most perplexing stories, the Book of Job. For centuries, we've been told that Job was a paragon of patience, a righteous man tested by a benevolent God. His story, we're taught, is a lesson in unwavering faith in the face of unimaginable suffering. But what if that narrative is a carefully constructed veil, obscuring a far more radical, far more dangerous truth? What if Job's suffering wasn't a divine test, but a brutal, necessary awakening? Picture it, a man of immense wealth and unwavering piety, living a life of perfect order in the land of Uz. Job had it all, a loving family, vast herds, and the respect of his community. He was the epitome of the American dream, ancient style. He meticulously followed every religious custom, offering sacrifices for his children just in case they might have sinned. He was, by all accounts, a good man, a righteous man, perhaps even a too good man. He was the kind of person who never questioned, never doubted, never looked beyond the comfortable confines of his established reality. He was, in essence, the perfect subject for a cosmic experiment. Then the world shattered. In a single horrifying day, messengers arrived, each bearing news more devastating than the last. Raiders stole his oxen and donkeys, killing his servants. Fire from the sky consumed his sheep and more servants. Chaldeans made off with his camels, slaughtering yet more of his people. And finally, the ultimate horror. A great wind swept through his eldest son's house, collapsing it and killing all his children. This wasn't just bad luck. This was an annihilation. Every single pillar of Job's existence was ripped away. And what was his response? He tore his robe, shaved his head, fell to the ground and worshipped. Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Wait, what? This is the moment that should make us all pause. Who, in their right mind, responds to such utter devastation with praise? This isn't patience, it's almost unsettling. It's as if Job is operating under a programming that dictates absolute submission, no matter the cost. And this is where the Gnostic lens becomes not just useful, but essential. The Gnostics, early Christian mystics whose writings were largely suppressed and destroyed by the burgeoning Orthodox Church, offered a radically different cosmology. They believed that this material world, the one we inhabit, was not created by the ultimate benevolent God. Instead, it was fashioned by a lesser, often flawed and sometimes malevolent deity they called the Demiurge. This Demiurge, often depicted as arrogant and ignorant, believed himself to be the one true God, unaware of the higher, perfect realm of the Pleroma, the true divine fullness from which he originated. In this Gnostic framework, humanity isn't merely created by this Demiurge. We are, in fact, sparks of the true divine light, trapped within physical bodies and a material world that acts as a prison. Our suffering, our ignorance, our endless cycle of birth and death, these are not part of a divine plan from a loving God, but rather the consequences of living under the dominion of the Demiurge, who seeks to keep us enslaved to his limited reality. So when Job loses everything, it's not a test from the ultimate God. It's an intervention, a violent shaking of the foundations of his illusory world. The Satan figure in the Book of Job, who instigates this suffering, can be seen not as a devil in the traditional sense, but as an agent of the Demiurge, or perhaps even the Demiurge himself, orchestrating events to maintain control. Job's unwavering faith, his absolute trust in the Lord who gives and takes away, is precisely what makes him a prime target. His piety is his blind spot, his devotion a chain. The true inciting incident of Job's story, from a Gnostic perspective, isn't the loss of his possessions or his children. It's the moment his comfortable, unquestioning faith is utterly annihilated, forcing him to confront a reality far more complex and terrifying than he ever imagined. This is the beginning of his awakening, a forced journey into the abyss of doubt that will ultimately lead him to a truth beyond the reach of any conventional deity. This hidden world, the Gnostic cosmos, operates on principles alien to most mainstream religions. It's a universe where suffering isn't redemptive, but indicative of a flawed creation, where the God of this world demands obedience, not love, and where salvation isn't found through ritual or sacrifice, but through gnosis, a direct, intuitive knowledge of one's divine origin and the true nature of reality. Why should we follow Job on this journey? Because his story is our story. In an age of information overload, where truth is constantly debated and institutions are increasingly questioned, Job's ancient struggle resonates deeply. We, too, are often caught in systems and beliefs that promise comfort but deliver constraint. We, too, yearn for a deeper understanding, a truth that transcends the superficial. Job's forced awakening is a call to adventure for anyone who has ever looked at the world and thought, there has to be more to this. His journey promises not just answers, but a radical redefinition of what it means to be human and what it means to be truly free. Job's initial, almost robotic acceptance of his catastrophic losses is the first crack in the facade of his conventional faith. But the true test, the real crucible of his awakening, begins when his suffering deepens. Not content with merely stripping him of his external world, the cosmic orchestrator of his trials, the demiurge, now strikes at his very flesh. Job is afflicted with loathsome sores from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. He sits among the ashes, scraping, himself with a potsherd, a figure of utter desolation. Even his wife, the one person who should offer solace, urges him to curse God and die. Her words, though seemingly cruel, are a desperate plea for a release from a reality that has become unbearable. But Job, still clinging to the remnants of his old programming, replies, "You speak as one of the foolish women speaks. Shall we indeed accept good from God and not accept adversity?" This is the moment when the true intellectual and spiritual battle begins. 3 friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, arrive to comfort him. They sit with him in silence for 7 days and 7 nights, a gesture of profound empathy. But when Job finally breaks the silence, cursing the day he was born, their comfort quickly dissolves into a theological debate that spans chapters of the biblical text. These friends, in the Gnostic interpretation, are not merely well-meaning companions. They are the embodiment of orthodox dogma, the voices of conventional wisdom that seek to pull Job back into the demiurge's carefully constructed illusion. Eliphaz, the oldest and most eloquent, argues from experience and tradition. He insists that suffering is always a consequence of sin. Who that was innocent ever perished, or where were the upright destroyed, he asks. His logic is simple, brutal, and utterly devoid of true spiritual insight. He represents the belief system that equates prosperity with righteousness and misfortune with divine punishment. This is the demiurge's justice system, a transactional relationship where obedience is rewarded and deviation is punished. It's a system designed to keep humanity in line, to prevent them from questioning the source of their reality. Bildad, more rigid and dogmatic, appeals to the wisdom of the ancients. He suggests that Job's children must have sinned, and that Job himself must have some hidden transgression. Does God pervert justice, or does the Almighty pervert righteousness, he demands, implying that any suffering must be deserved. Bildad is the voice of inherited dogma, the unquestioning acceptance of established religious authority. He reinforces the idea that the demiurge is infallible, and any perceived injustice is merely a reflection of human failing. Zophar, the most impatient and accusatory, dismisses Job's claims of innocence outright. He believes Job is getting less than he deserves and urges him to confess his supposed sins. Can you find out the deep things of God? Can you find out the limit of the Almighty, he scoffs, effectively telling Job to stop questioning and simply submit. Zophar embodies the blind faith that demands silence and punishes inquiry, a cornerstone of the demiurge's control. But Job, in his agony, begins to see through their platitudes. He doesn't deny his suffering, He questions its meaning. He longs for a direct encounter with God, not to justify himself, but to understand. "Oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my signature. Let the Almighty answer me," he cries. This isn't a plea for mercy. It's a demand for truth. This is the spark of gnosis igniting within him. He is no longer content with second-hand explanations or inherited dogmas. He wants to know directly the nature of the power that has so utterly devastated his life. From a Gnostic perspective, Job's friends are not comforting him. They are attempting to re-imprison him within the demiurge's false reality. Their arguments, though seemingly logical within their framework, are designed to prevent Job from achieving true gnosis. They represent the forces that keep humanity enslaved to the material world and its limited understanding of divinity. They are the gatekeepers of the illusion, consciously or unconsciously. Job's quest, therefore, is not for restoration of his former life, but for knowledge. He is embarking on an internal journey, a descent into the depths of his own being, to confront the nature of suffering, justice, and the very essence of the divine. He is searching for a truth that transcends the simplistic cause and effect theology of his friends. He is seeking the true God, the unknown God, beyond the limited and often cruel demiurge. This quest is fraught with peril. The greatest obstacle is not the physical pain, but the intellectual and spiritual conditioning that has shaped his entire life. To question the God he has always worshipped is to risk everything: his identity, his sanity, his very soul. But the gnawing doubt, the profound sense of injustice, propels him forward. He is driven by an innate divine spark within him that refuses to be extinguished by the darkness of this world. He is seeking the gnosis that will set him free. His friends, with their relentless insistence on his sinfulness, inadvertently push him further down this path. Each accusation, each simplistic explanation, only highlights the inadequacy of their understanding. Job's suffering becomes a catalyst, stripping away the layers of illusion, forcing him to confront the raw, unvarnished truth of existence. He is becoming a seeker, a Gnostic in the making, driven by an insatiable hunger for authentic knowledge, even if that knowledge shatters his world completely. His quest is a mirror for our own. In a world saturated with information, yet starved for wisdom, we too are constantly bombarded with narratives that seek to define our reality, to tell us what to believe, how to act, and who to worship. Job's journey reminds us that true understanding often begins with radical doubt, with the courage to question the most sacred cows, and with the unwavering commitment to seek truth, no matter how uncomfortable or unsettling it may be. The answers, as Job is about to discover, may not come from the heavens, but from within the deepest recesses of his own being, and from a source far older and more profound than any god of this world. Job's relentless questioning, his refusal to accept the simplistic explanations of his friends, pushes the narrative to its breaking point. He has exhausted every conventional avenue for understanding his suffering. He has challenged the very premise of divine justice as understood by his contemporaries. And then a new voice emerges, seemingly from nowhere: Elihu. Elihu, a younger man, claims to have waited patiently for his elders to speak, but now, filled with the Spirit, he can no longer hold back. In the traditional interpretation, Elihu is often seen as a bridge, preparing Job for God's direct intervention. But in the Gnostic lens, Elihu is a pivotal figure, a herald of gnosis, offering a perspective that transcends the limited understanding of Job's three friends. Elihu doesn't accuse Job of sin in the same way the others do. Instead, he speaks of God's greatness and inscrutability, but with a subtle difference. He emphasizes that God speaks in various ways, through dreams, visions, and suffering itself, to turn humanity from its pride and bring it to understanding. This isn't about punishment, it's about revelation. Elihu's discourse, though still within a monotheistic framework, hints at a deeper, more complex divine interaction, one that can be interpreted as the demiurge in his own limited way, attempting to communicate his power, yet inadvertently revealing his own limitations to those with eyes to see. And then the storm. The text describes a whirlwind, from which the Lord speaks to Job. This is the moment of ultimate revelation, the climax of the traditional narrative. But for the Gnostic, this is the ultimate plot twist. The voice from the whirlwind is not the voice of the ultimate benevolent God of the Pleroma. It is the voice of the Demiurge, the arrogant, ignorant creator of this material world, finally revealing himself in his full, terrifying, yet ultimately limited majesty. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? The voice thunders. It's a barrage of rhetorical questions, a display of cosmic power and creative might. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. The voice boasts of creating the earth, the seas, the stars, the rain, the lightning. It describes the majestic power of wild animals, the wild ass, the wild ox, the ostrich, the warhorse. And then the ultimate challenge: will the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Let him who rebukes God answer it. This is the Demiurge, asserting his dominion over his creation. He is proud of his handiwork, proud of his power to command the elements and control the beasts. He is the architect of this physical universe, and he demands recognition and submission from his creatures. He is the God of this world, the one who believes himself to be the only God. He is unaware of the higher, true God, the infinite light of the Pleroma from which he emanated. His wisdom is the wisdom of creation, of order and chaos within the material realm. But it is not the wisdom of spiritual truth or ultimate liberation. The Gnostic texts, particularly those from Nag Hammadi, describe the Demiurge, often identified with the Old Testament god Yhwh, as a blind, arrogant deity who mistakenly believes he is the sole divine being. He creates the material world, a flawed imitation of the true spiritual realm, and traps divine sparks, human souls, within it. His pronouncements from the whirlwind are not benevolent teachings, but a demonstration of his power to maintain control, to keep his creations in awe and subservience. He is saying, in essence, "Look at what I have made. Who are you to question? Me you are but dust, and I am the creator of all this." The Demiurge's monologue continues, describing two monstrous creatures, Behemoth and Leviathan. These aren't just mythical beasts. In Gnostic cosmology, they can be interpreted as symbolic representations of the Demiurge's chaotic and oppressive power within the material world. Behemoth, a land creature, represents the brute force and untamed aspects of the physical realm, while Leviathan, the sea monster, symbolizes the primordial chaos and the depths of the material illusion. The Demiurge boasts of his ability to control these forces, further emphasizing his dominion over the physical universe. He is showing Job the extent of his creation, and by extension, the extent of his prison. This is the critical juncture. Job, who has been relentlessly seeking answers, is now confronted not with the ultimate truth, but with the ultimate illusionist. The voice from the whirlwind is not offering solace or explanation in the way Job might have hoped. Instead, it is a grand, terrifying display of power, designed to overwhelm and silence any further questioning. It is the Demiurge's final attempt to reassert his authority, to crush Job's burgeoning gnosis before it can fully blossom. The conflict here is profound. Job has been seeking a benevolent, just God. What he finds is a powerful, self-proclaimed deity who seems more interested in demonstrating his might than in offering comfort or understanding. This is the moment of existential crisis for Job. He has been stripped of everything, physically and emotionally. Now his very understanding of the divine is being shattered. The God he worshipped, the God he believed in, is revealing himself to be something far different, far more limited and far more terrifying than he ever conceived. This revelation forces Job into a profound moral and spiritual dilemma. Does he accept this powerful yet flawed creator as the ultimate authority? Does he retreat into the safety of blind faith, even after witnessing the true nature of the Lord who has tormented him? Or does he dare to look beyond this imposing facade, to seek a truth that lies beyond the Demiurge's dominion? The tension in this moment is palpable. Job has been pushed to the absolute edge. His suffering has been immense, his questions unyielding. Now, faced with the overwhelming power of the Demiurge, he must make a choice that will define not only his own destiny but also the very nature of his understanding of reality. Will he succumb to the demiurge's display of power, or will he find the courage to transcend it? The answer lies not in a spoken word, but in a profound internal shift. This is the moment where Job's journey from piety to gnosis reaches its terrifying, yet ultimately liberating climax. This confrontation with the demiurge is not unique to Job. Throughout Gnostic texts, there are accounts of divine sparks, human souls, encountering the arrogant creator of this world. Sometimes these encounters are direct, sometimes symbolic, but the core message remains the same. The path to true liberation involves recognizing the limitations of the demiurge and understanding that the ultimate divine reality lies beyond his grasp. Job, in his raw, unvarnished suffering, is being given a unique opportunity to see behind the curtain, to glimpse the true nature of his cosmic prison, and to find the key to his own escape. The visual representation of this chapter would be crucial. Imagine the whirlwind not just as a natural phenomenon, but as a swirling vortex of cosmic energy, within which the demiurge's face, immense and imposing, slowly materializes. His voice, deep and resonant, would echo with a sense of ancient power, yet also with an underlying tone of insecurity, a need to prove his authority. The images of Behemoth and Leviathan would be primal and terrifying, not just animals, but embodiments of the chaotic forces that the demiurge controls, and that keep humanity bound to the material plane. The scene would be dark, intense and claustrophobic, emphasizing the oppressive nature of the demiurge's dominion. Job, small and vulnerable against this cosmic backdrop, would be a figure of immense internal struggle, his face reflecting the dawning, terrifying realization of the truth. This is the moment of truth, the point of no return, where Job's faith is not just tested, but utterly transformed into something far more profound, gnosis. The whirlwind ceases. The thunderous voice of the demiurge fades. Job, battered and broken, sits in silence. He has heard the boasts of the creator of this world, witnessed his raw power, and understood his profound limitations. And in that silence, a profound transformation occurs. Job's response is not one of defiant rebellion, nor is it one of renewed subservience. It is a quiet, yet monumental shift in perception. I know that you can do everything, and that no purpose of yours can be withheld from you, Job begins, acknowledging the demiurge's power within his own sphere. But then the critical turning point. Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me which I did not know. And finally, the ultimate act of gnosis. I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I abhor myself and repent in dust and ashes. This repentance is not an admission of sin in the conventional sense. Job is not repenting for any wrongdoing against the demiurge. Instead, he is repenting for his own ignorance, for his blindness to the true nature of reality. He is abhorring the limited self, the self that was trapped in the demiurge's illusion, the self that believed in a transactional, punishing God. His eye sees you, not the ultimate benevolent God, but the demiurge, in his true, limited form. This is the moment of gnosis, the direct intuitive knowledge that transcends mere belief or dogma. Job has seen behind the curtain, and the truth has set him free. From a Gnostic perspective, Job's restoration is not a material reward from the demiurge for his renewed piety. It is a spiritual transformation. The doubling of his possessions and the return of his family are symbolic of a life lived with gnosis. He doesn't get back what he lost. He gains something infinitely more valuable, true understanding and spiritual liberation. His new family represents the community of awakened souls, and his renewed prosperity signifies the abundance that comes from aligning with the true divine, not the false one. He has transcended the cycle of suffering and reward imposed by the demiurge. This radical reinterpretation of Job's story has profound implications for us today. In a world grappling with existential questions, widespread suffering, and a growing distrust of established institutions, the Gnostic Job offers a powerful framework for understanding our own struggles. If the God of this world is a limited, imperfect creator, then our suffering is not a divine test, but a consequence of living within a flawed system. This perspective empowers us to question, to seek, and to find our own truth, rather than passively accepting predetermined narratives. Job's journey is a blueprint for spiritual autonomy. It teaches us that true faith is not blind obedience, but a courageous quest for knowledge. It encourages us to look inward for the divine spark, the gnosis, that connects us to the ultimate reality, beyond the confines of this material world. It challenges us to confront the illusions that bind us, whether they are religious dogmas, societal expectations, or our own conditioned beliefs. Consider the contemporary relevance. How many of us feel like Job, losing everything, questioning the meaning of it all? The Gnostic interpretation provides a path forward, suggesting that our suffering can be a catalyst for awakening, a doorway to deeper understanding. It offers solace not in a promise of future reward, but in the immediate liberation that comes from knowing the truth about ourselves and the universe. The story of Job, seen through the Gnostic lens, becomes a timeless allegory for the human condition. It is the story of every individual who dares to question, who refuses to accept easy answers, and who embarks on the arduous yet ultimately rewarding journey of self-discovery. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and its innate longing for truth and freedom. So what does Job's transformation mean for you? If Job, the most righteous man, had to dismantle his entire belief system to find true understanding, what does that imply for your own faith, your own understanding of reality? Are you willing to question the narratives that have shaped your life? Are you prepared to seek the gnosis that lies within, even if it means confronting uncomfortable truths? The journey of Job is not merely an ancient tale. It is a living, breathing testament to the power of awakening. It is a call to action, an invitation to embark on your own quest for gnosis. The knowledge is waiting. The truth is within reach. Are you ready to see beyond the illusion?